so they don't call and interrupting the
Okay.
show.
Right. Definitely. Oh man, we got a good one today. I want to thank the brother Rod Hayes for joining the Patreon family and contributing to the platform. Got an important topic today. I was talking to the brother over the phone, and the topic just came to me as I was talking to the brother. He was just dropping some gems on me about the third, the fourth, and the fifth dimension. So I'm going to continue with that, and I want to start out. He said a lot of interesting things during that conversation, Rod. But I want to start out with because we're trying to figure out where exactly are we in the whole scheme of things, and what the hell is going on, and how do we get to certain levels of this so-called game that they don't want us to be. To start out with the third dimension, Rod Hayes, what would you say? Because we was talking about the moon. What holds this thing together? What is the main thing that keeps this third dimension in order? Would you say, Rod Hayes?
All of that comes from what's called Shakti,
Shakti.
right? That's
Mhm.
everything, including the holographic projector, is held together by siphoning what we call dark matter or Shakti energy, which is the pure energy of the divine feminine,
Mhm.
right? That's creator energy at its source. The dimensions spiral in from first dimension to multiple dimensions up. Like, let's take a slinky.
Mhm.
Stretch the slinky out and look at it from the bottom and watch the spiral.
Right.
Now, if you take two of them and you pinch them together, you have an infinity loop.
Mhm.
On the bottom of it, you have one reality, and on the top of it, you have what's called the upside down. The only way to escape the infinity loop is you have to jump the fourth dimension into the fifth. That's why nobody never talks about the fourth dimensional ascension. We already in the fourth and the third simultaneously because
Mhm.
of the infinity loop,
Mhm.
right? Years ago, the Anunnaki opened a portal between the third and the fourth dimension, and then they ignited a nuclear type of explosion that collapsed the fourth into the third. So now we need sleep. We need to be able to live in two dimensions simultaneously, and nature has a way of like adjusting to whatever you throw at it. So when we go to sleep, our dreams is fourth dimensional mental matrix. When we are awake, we in three-dimensional fixed position reality of the 3D matrix. The three-dimensional matrix has a damper on it. It's like putting a silencer on a gun, and that's the holographic projector system set up by the Dark Knight satellite and the moon. And that's what keep us thinking that this is more real than higher dimensions, which has been here longer.
So the Dark Knight satellite and the moon work together to keep this holographic projection in place.
That's why they never collide. They not even supposed to be. Okay, you got the Dark Knight satellite going with a north-south polar orbit, whereas the moon goes in the east-west equatorial orbit, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
But they on the same trajectory lines, but they never collide. That doesn't make sense unless it's controlled because they move at different speeds,
Mhm.
but they never collide.
So the ancients, this Anunnaki, could you go in a little more depth about what happened and when they opened up this portal that collapsed the fourth dimension into the third dimension? What was life like before this before they did this?
Well, we didn't need sleep for one. We didn't perceive the concept of time. The concept of time is it's a delay in your ability to manifest your creative potential.
Uh-huh.
Whereas you didn't have a delay before. It was like everybody was fighting these conjure wars all the time. It was like, we don't talk about the conjure wars. And people had all these mystic powers, and they would liberally use them. But most of the people were what we call benevolent, good-hearted, kind people, and they would normally, you didn't have a conflict that required nefarious violence. What we would do is we were more into the healing arts, the learning. Like, this was University Earth before it became what it is now, the prison planet.
Mm-hmm.
It became the prison planet because one of the Anunnaki didn't like the feminine nature of the matriarchs that ran the planet and the feminine nature of the planet, and wanted to, his name was Enlil. Now, caveat, which means buyer beware. The caveat is this: I read this stuff as energy, but it's told in story format, like a conceptual physics story, so that people can more readily grasp these concepts. When you tell them in story form, it makes it easier for them to understand what you're talking about than if you was to put it in a mathematical formula.
Mm-hmm.
So even when I talk about the mothership, I can only read it as an energy till I see it.
Mm-hmm.
Anything that you don't see, you have to read it as an energy signature. And the description of the thing tells you the nature or the energy expression that's being expressed. The mother plane is just the when you read it as an energy, it's all things coming forth from the divine feminine as the great mother. But when you read it as an actual construct, it becomes a physical object, right? And if you haven't seen it, you got a miscalculation taking place because you can't physically see the object. You have to read it as an energy. Anything that somebody tell you that you can't physically see, the description tells you the nature of the energy that's being used. So you have to read it as the energy first before you apply it to the 3D reality, because the 3D reality is primarily elusive in its understanding of spiritual things, because you have to translate it like a foreign language into the common language. If you're in China, you got to translate it into Chinese. If you're in America, you got to translate it into American English. If you're in London, you have to be able to translate it into the Queen's English. So all these different perceptions, you still have to be able to reduce them to a common descriptive analysis that the average person can digest and utilize the information to its greatest advantage. So always read it as an energy first until you see it.
Okay, so I'm glad you gave us that. What do you call it? The caveat? Is that called caveat? Because I know some people ask whether these were actual people, Tahuti and Lil, or whether just like they want to know, is Jesus an actual person, or is Osiris an actual person, or is it just an energy? So I'm glad that you broke that down right there. So now we have instantaneous manifestation in this realm. You say when Earth is a university, before this portal was opened by the Anunnaki. Now, my question to you, it would be, my understanding of this 3D matrix is that the divine feminine created this matrix the way it's designed and the time delay, because the time allows this being, the all that is, or whatever you want to call it, to understand itself. Because this being is everything that's in existence, it can't quite understand itself until it sees tall, small, fat, skinny, light skin, dark skin, until there's a relative reality, until there's until it's a journey that it has to go through. So that's my understanding.
Then think about this. Based on your description you just gave, that would mean that the all-knowing divine mother doesn't know what she's creating. She wouldn't be able to know in advance. Okay. Therefore, she would have no control over the creation itself because it's an unknown variable. It's X marks the spot, or the Y in algebra. Right? So that's not a consistent with the understanding of the nature of creation. The creator understands the creation, whether it's assuming the form of me or you. Right? We developed egos. Our egos have to be purified. And a purified ego is just this. Everybody in the world told you how they perceive you. That's your ego. Everything they told you that you believe about yourself is your ego. The purification process is you go through the ego, and those things that don't truly apply to you, you discard them from your ego self until higher consciousness can absorb the lower consciousness and they become one. These egos, like Tahuti. Tahuti was the manifestation of me as an ego. Now, the ego can be regenerated if the genetic frequency aligns with the timing. The genetic frequency is fed through the DNA from the mitochondrial to tell it how to vibrate. That's all source energy. The mitochondrial is the step down capacitor because the energy that it takes to run us is the same as a neutron star. But you can't put a neutron star in the human body without spontaneous combustion unless you have a step down capacitor, or what we call on a mini bike is called a governor, to limit the amount of speed you can put behind this machine or the amount of energy it can push out. So the energy that's coming from the mitochondrial activates certain codons on the DNA. They work hand in hand with the Shu and Tefnut resonance and the solar rays from the sun in order for us to manifest ourselves. And the egos that we become, if they become what we call a noteworthy creation, is able to be duplicated in the future. That's what we call the reincarnation cycles. All it is your ego. They tell you that it's a soul trap, don't go into the light, all that bullshit, right? Everything that you're doing is part of your ego self seeking to purify its consciousness so that it can facilitate the higher consciousness of the higher self. We all got a personal tutor, but we don't know how to access it. The personal tutor, we call it our holy guardian angel. The holy guardian angel was written about by Aleister Crowley, but the concept goes back to ancient Kemet, and he got it, as according to him, from the goddess Aiwass, which was the spirit of the great tree of the earth, which was also chopped down, by the way. It was in Arizona, where we see as the Devil's Hill, what do they call it? The Devil's Tower. That's one of the largest trees that we had. Some of the trees used to touch the atmosphere, and that's one of them right there. But there's more of them around the world. And this is why they had the tree in Avatar movie named Aiwass. It's the same embodiment. So we used to be able to upload our consciousness into the tree. And when we go to the consciousness in the new lifetime, it tunes the DNA in to the frequency you are, and then it downloads your consciousness back to you so you know everything you ever knew. They called that the tree of eternal knowledge. And that's the one that they told Adam and Eve in the garden not to eat, even though it's a mythical story. The story was told to hold certain keys to the understanding of accessing the tree of knowledge and the tree of eternal life, which is the Holy Sephirah. We eternal beings, but we live in infinite space based on a time construct. The purpose of the delay in the manifestation was people was manifesting stuff and then they would immediately regret it. So the weeding out the regret is done by putting a delay. And then if you don't do the maintenance to bring it about, you can't manifest it. It won't produce itself, because you got to do certain maintenance along the way. In other words, you got to write your destiny and then walk the path to lead you to that. And most people are inherently being taught through the system to be lazy when it comes to manifesting their dreams in order to support the dreams of the system that don't care about us.
Right. So this delay, Rod Hayes, now that they say Earth is moving to the fifth dimension, is this delay lessening? Like, is the manifestation time getting less and less because of where Earth is going right now?
3D will make the lesser evolved beings have a delay still. They will be part the 3-dimensional lessons. What we learned from the 3rd dimension, it will make the lesser evolved beings have a harder time to manifest without doing the work. Then the higher evolved beings was doing the work even in the 3D, merging a higher consciousness with the ego self.
So you mentioned something about the mitochondria working, it being a step down capacitor, or on a bike. And to use an example of a bike, the governor on a bike that limits the amount of speed that the bike could go, right?
Right.
And then you mentioned the Schumann resonance.
Right. So, I mentioned the Schumann Tefnut. The Schumann resonance is flipped already.
So let me ask you this, Rod. So on Father's Day, a reading came out from did you see it?
Yeah.
It looked like some cymatic, and this was on Father's Day.
Look at it. It looked kind of like a honeycomb.
Yes. What the hell's going on with that, Rod?
It's the women are waking up on the earth to their true power. The priestesses of Oshun are returning with the sweet waters. When this happened, they individually raise their frequency, and when they come in contact in a group, they raise the group frequency, and it causes that effect on the earth. It wakes Earth up. Mother Earth wake up to shake off the parasites. She changes the frequency, and whole species are annihilated and new species emerged. We're going to be seeing new animals that we never knew existed. And then we're going to see animals disappear that's been here for the longest.
So why did this happen on Father's Day? Because this was never seen before. So it's like a phenomenon.
One of the key catalysts, if you go back, I did a public service announcement about the goddess glow up, where there's a sister, Hydea Barber, was leading a healing group in Florida. And that was instrumental in flipping the grid, because the women had to go to the healing circle, and the more of the priestesses that got healed, the more they collectively together, 100 monkey effect, or what we call critical mass, changes the frequency of the planet. And her program was in the process on Father's Day. So it's not a coincidence. All these things are already written in prophecy. They're written in historical records, and it's not the first time it's happened. We go through cycles on Earth. Right now, we leave in a lunar cycle, going into a solar cycle. The lunar cycle was when we was clouded with the night vision, not understanding our dreams, which make us not really understand our thoughts. The sun cycle comes in, it changes the vibrational frequency, and it elevates the frequency of the individuals. And the earth is controlled by the mitochondrial force. Mitochondrial can be found in a free radical form in the soil, but you can't find DNA in the free radical form in the soil. The DNA is made up of the 21 complex amino acids, and these are in crystalline form. In other words, they microprocessing computers, self-replicating using phalanx technology. And that's why the DNA RNA replication takes place to exchange the data from the different cells so they all on the same page.
Right. Wow. So to touch on this, the fourth dimension,
Mm-hmm.
You would say the astral plane is the fourth dimension.
Well, you can, but the fourth dimensional is more like the realm of the dream, and the astral plane is like a training simulator that we go to learn how to control our spiritual self, our higher self. We learn how to gain control of the faculties, or what we call spiritual senses, using the astral plane as like a mirror universe to train in, so that we don't spill over into the 3D with all these new creations that we fabricated in our mind. So you needed a controlled location. What we call it in ancient Kemet, they call it the halls of Amenti, which is the great university of the soul.
So the astral plane was in ancient times the halls of Amenti.
Yeah, that's who Thoth talks about in the Emerald Tablets.
What did he say about the halls of Amenti in the Emerald Tablets? What did Thoth say?
He just talks about the halls of Amenti being the place of higher evolved souls. He touched on it several times in the text, and he says that he is the keeper of the information in the halls, in the sacred halls. He's basically the librarian.
So this dimension, the astral plane, I'm trying to understand. I want to make sure I use the right analogy for people to understand. So the NBA, we all know the NBA, that the National Basketball Association, where the best players go to play basketball, the so-called best players, but they also have a G League where the players go to become great, so that they have the possibility to make it to the NBA.
It's called developmental.
Yeah. Developmentally, yeah. So is that the astral plane? That would be the equivalent to the astral plane?
No, the NBA would be what we call the fifth dimension.
Uh-huh.
The developmental would be the third dimension.
Mm-hmm.
And the European League would be the astral plane. If you're using basketball as the analogy.
As an analogy, right.
Right. So it's a whole different league, but you can go get your skills sharp enough to come back and get in the NBA.
Right.
Developmental, you can get to the NBA. Right. But if you go to Europe, that means that you already NBA ready. You just not. It's too many players in the NBA for you to make it. You've been bumped out.
Oh shit.
So you go over there and you can still make a living doing what you love. You go into the astral realm, you can still develop your spiritual senses to a higher degree than you could trying to do it in a three-dimensional reality. The problem is with most of us is we don't want to follow the steps because we think that somebody giving us rules. Well, there's rules to govern the processes, and they all want to take process out of development, and you can't do that because that's why we in the time matrix. So to stop people from creating the strangest creatures, figments of their imagination becoming real, you need the manifestation delay of the third dimension until they get control of the self. And don't nobody want to have self-control. They want to control everybody else instead.
Right. Damn. So we would need for it to get back to instant manifestation, humanity will need ultimate self-discipline, huh?
Yep.
Saturn
And
represents.
that's where you're gonna lose most of the people.
Yeah.
Because everybody is willing to discipline somebody else, but very few are willing to do the self-discipline.
Right. Yes.
You don't want to tell yourself what to do, but you want to tell somebody else what to do.
Right. No, indeed. That's self-discipline. And Saturn governs self-discipline. Isn't that associated with Saturn?
Saturn is the great judge. Saturn is when you don't want to do your work, the energy of Saturn, which actually is its moon Lilith. And this is the compel you to do what you came to Earth to do. And this is the energy that it comes through the Saturnian forces.
Mm-hmm. So we're touching on the third dimension. We're touching on the fourth dimension. We're touching on the astral plane. And I love the analogy when we use basketball and you explain the astral plane as the European League, where you can still get your shit off, but it's not the NBA.
Right.
So I think the people are starting to understand this more and more and more. Let's touch on, they say Earth is moving to the fifth, from 3D to 5D. I remember when Delbert Blair used to talk about that back in the day. What you about to say, Rod?
Okay, it's the understanding is that we won't experience a three-dimensional fixed position reality, which is nothing could be further from the truth. We're still going to experience the same as if we in 3D. Mm-hmm. But the constructs that govern us is going to change. It's like changing presidents or changing kings or any. So the energy that we'll be ruled by is a higher consciousness energy, because people getting away from just believing some shit because the preacher said it, to show me where you got that from. I want to know. I want to see it for myself. This is the fifth dimensional mind matrix operating in 3D, demanding the proof to the statement. Don't just tell me what to do. Tell me where to find where you got it from. Right? So the human was going through a Kali Yuga, which is an amnesia state. And while you're going through this Kali Yuga, prior to it, Tahuti told the people to start keeping a written record. And they started with the writings in stone because the memory was still intact of the planet. Right. So the things that's written in stone, where we talk like the hieroglyphics in Kemet in Mexico and China, and then we talk about like the Sumerian tablets, and then you end up with your Vedic texts, your sutras of India, are all ancient texts. And they don't want us to know what that stuff say. But now, because people have to write translations and dictionaries to help us read this stuff, we start to be able to read it for ourselves, reading the writing on the wall, as they say. And the writing on the wall tells the story of the holy drama. Everything we doing in our reality, no matter how simple or how complex it is, it all caters to the fruition of the holy drama, which is the Osirian resurrection story, the return of the Great Father, which comes in as a solar ray, which activates the Great Mother, which in turn comes out as a frequency from the planet, which was a Schumann resonance, which is now a Schumann-Tefnut resonance, which is a different vibrational frequency of balance.
See, Rod, when you talked about the holy drama and the Holy Father, that's what I thought happened on Father's Day, where the Holy Father was uniting with the Great Mother. That's what I thought it meant.
Well, that's that solar flare. Mm-hmm. Right? That's what the solar flare was. It was the message from the sun, which is the Great Father, to Earth, which is the Great Mother, telling her it's time to wake up. These kids is ready to eat dinner or breakfast or whatever you want to call it. And we need to start doing our parental duties to raise these and protect these children because somebody dropped the ball. Mm-hmm. It's all in them frequencies. And the scientists have gauges and meters and all kind of instruments to read these frequencies. And over the years, they can almost translate most of them. Mm-hmm. Tell you what the sun is saying to the earth and tell you the response the earth is having to the sun. Mm-hmm. which ties back to the holy drama, the Osirian resurrection and the return of the Great Father.
Do you practice grounding, Rod, to communicate with the earth? Do you practice
Yep.
grounding?
Yep.
How effective?
Grounding is essential, because when we don't ground, our energy is going in multiple directions at the same time. When you ground, it realigns those energies to flow synchronistically through the physiology of the being. All we are is manifest earth walking around in a human body. So the earth can tell us, based on where our DNA is, how to realign, how to see our higher consciousness, and how to communicate with our higher self better than the preacher on the pulpit, because he ain't got a clue.
Right. So grounding, I've been talking about that a lot on my channel. So that's definitely essential at this time.
Grounding, cleaning your filters, and spiritual baths for the women is highly important.
Okay.
Yeah. Those are the three most important things. Especially cleaning your filters is the most underrated thing for health.
How do you do that? And so what do you mean by that? Clean your filters.
So your filters is your lymphatic system,
Okay.
your liver, your kidneys, and your intestines. This is where the body gets toxins trapped in them if we don't herbally stimulate them to purge those toxins.
Mm-hmm.
The reason why they catch the toxin is to allow the brain and the heart to function normal.
Right.
When them toxins are burdened into the body, it causes a stupor. The brain becomes foggy, and the heart becomes hesitant to beat, and you get shortness of breath. And some people experience acute angina, which is a chest pain that's not a heart attack.
Right. So cleaning the filters, when you say cleaning, what some people say, like what, jumping rope and shit like that, that's cleaning, that's cleansing the lymphatic system. Walking.
Well, okay, so the jumping rope to a profuse sweat will clean your pores, and it'll accelerate your lymphatic excretions. But for your liver, you would use like burdock root, dandelion leaf, or you use milk thistle, are the most potent ones. And you have flushes, you have chemicals that flush for the kidneys, and chemicals that clean, or I don't like to use the term chemical, but herbs that will clean the intestine. Right. And as you clean them, you'll begin to see clearer. Everything, you'll be able to think, your thoughts will come easier. You'll be able to comprehend faster, and you'll have more mental dexterity, able to take on new concepts in shorter periods of time than you were before. Mm-hmm. All that's part of cleaning the filtration system of the body. Right. The body ain't what we think it is. Like, I'm listening to a lot of people that discriminate based on melanin production alone. But melanin production alone is not all that it's going to take to survive on Earth. What's more important than that is your mitochondrial connection to the planet. If Earth say you can stay, I don't give a fuck how light you is, you're going to be here.
Mm-hmm. So that mitochondria is the most important, huh?
It's more important than the melanin. But the crazy thing about melanin is melanin is auto-sentient. It's conscious by itself. Mm-hmm. Right? So it's a badass by itself. When you harmonize the melanin with the mitochondrial, now you're talking about really tapping into higher spiritual awareness. And the men need a female counterpart with a pure heart to raise his mitochondrial frequency just by being in the presence and feeling the energy of love. That's what they call pure, unadulterated mitochondrial output. It's called love.
So by being with with the feminine presence, a woman with a pure heart, that alone, you're saying, does something to your mitochondria that nothing else can do.
Yep. She gotta love you unconditional, though. Uh-huh. That means she not worried about some shit somebody told you was cheating. What in the hell is cheating? That's violating the set of rules that was already laid down and agreed upon by the parties playing the game. But reality is humans are pack animals, and we live in a hierarchy, the same as wolves, the same as gorillas, the same as schools of fish. We got a pack hierarchy. And the alpha males is the attack because that's the defenders. Those are considered the white blood cells of the body, while the women would be considered more of the red blood cells, the ones that brings the nutrients throughout the body. So as long as we focused on the divisive strategies of those who came to divide and conquer us and subjugate the divine masculine so that we can't facilitate the rise of the divine feminine, then we're going to always have problems.
So in terms of the fifth dimension, Rod, this is a great conversation, by the way. In terms of the fifth dimension and Earth moving to the fifth dimension, you said it's like, you used the example of it's like a new king is coming in.
Yep.
So Rod, with new king, new laws. So the new king oftentimes don't keep the laws of the old king. So we got all these laws that we hear about in astrology, karma. We hear about the seven hermetic laws. Are all these laws going to stay in place with this new shift, this new paradigm shift, or is shit going to change and some of these laws don't apply no more?
Well, principles and laws are not the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Principles is those things that nature does without nobody of intellect infusing their ideology. When it comes to the arena of the human, we are in charge of changing the system when the systems become destructive to the nature of the planet. And this is where we at now. All of these systems around the planet are fraudulent, predicated upon something called nationhood. A nation is a company, a corporation. All nations are governed by uniform commercial code as the standard of law. That's going to be removed because it's only supposed to be for the seas. It wasn't supposed to be for the land. So on the land, you're going to go back to what we call in the Americas, the great law, where as you go back to admiralty is only the law of the flag on the high seas, which will no longer be functional on the land. If you put everything where it's supposed to go, the machine runs perfect.
Let me ask you this now. What about in this paradigm shift that we are experiencing, that we're in the middle of and experiencing, what role is food going to play? And when I say food, because food could be a lot. Food could be what you watch on TV because that's giving you energy. But what I'm talking about is the shit that we got to eat that they're poisoning everywhere, Rod. The fruits is they fuck it up. The fruits with pesticides, the vegetables. Ain't nothing the same no more. You can't even find a seeded watermelon. What role is food? Because I'm tired of this food. This food shit is so confusing, Rod. What role is food going to play moving forward?
Yeah, one of the first things that, if you notice, there's been a lot of cattle farms and chicken farms that then burned down and killed thousands of cattle and thousands of birds. That's because all of this genetically modified food that doesn't have any nutritional value is going to be removed. This is going to have the negative side effect first of creating the food shortage. Okay. But it's really not a food shortage. It's a shortage of a human pesticide, basically.
So you said that we didn't have to sleep before the third and the fourth merged. Do you see breatharian? What's that word? Breatharianism? Do you see that? Do you see that making a return?
That's what you call a niche group. Some people was born to show us different capabilities of the human. And some of them are breatharians. Some of them take their energy straight from the sun, and some of them only drink water. Right? But they get their water from very key places, what they call it. It's called primordial water or first water. Then you have those who only eat fruits. Then you got some that only eat vegetables. Then you have your cannibals or your carnivores who only eat meat. And then you have the rest of us, the majority of us is a mixture of all of them. But in order to know about the power of the breath, you need breatharians, those who live by the breath, which is actually another word for spirit, right? They know how to draw the nutrition into the cells through the mitochondrial using the power of the mind and the synchronization of the higher self, with the ego stripped down to its least common denominator. So they all have to be seen. People do strange stuff with the body, contortionists, gymnasts, to show you your capabilities. Because a lot of us is monkey see, monkey do. If we don't ever see it, we won't ever try it.
Right, exactly.
Right. And then you have what we call adrenaline junkies. Anything that creates the sense of danger, fuels their fire for life, make them feel like they're alive. This is one of the reasons why we take the human form as higher evolved beings, is to experience something called emotions. Because higher spiritual beings don't got no emotions, but they don't do narcissistic bullshit either. Right. So when they experiencing the emotion, a lot of the times we become what's known as the pauper gods, where we embrace poverty and suffering in order to feel the most misery, and because it's the exact opposite end of bliss spectrum.
So that would be similar to, so just like they got adrenaline junkies, we're emotion junkies because we want to experience that.
Yeah. Some of us are so driven on experiencing the emotion that we can't even get addicted to drugs because we're too addicted to the emotion.
Yeah, that's facts. Motherfuckers be high off being a victim, or for fame, or for, it could be anything. It could, but just the experience. So niggas be getting high ride. Oh, they be getting high off these emotions.
Yeah, you can tell because the victim, the energy generated from being the victim is so strong that once you convince somebody they've been a victim, they'll fight for 1,000 years to try to right the wrong you done to them, even if it ain't true. The slave ships.
So let me ask you this. So in this realm, the most powerful drug that we've been known about for thousands of years is cocaine. Hell of a drug down here on planet Earth.
Cocaine pales in comparison to dopamine. Heroin pales in the comparison to dopamine.
You know, that's what I was just about to ask you. So if cocaine is popping in this realm, is emotions? Somebody in my chat said one time, emotions is like intergalactic crack. Are these entities from all over the universe? They look at emotions like how we look at cocaine down here, huh?
Yeah, because one of the things about the Earth realm as a university is the emotions is the navigation system. And the better you can read yours and others, the better you can navigate your life. But at the same time, it's like cocaine it was never created to be the type of drug it became by concentrating it from the coca leaf. It became that when they extracted the active ingredients from the leaf. It was no more than caffeine. But now it's caffeine on steroids.
Right. Wow, man. Yeah, this is this is some interesting stuff. So is it possible, you talked early in the conversation about Enlil opening up this portal to merge the third and the fourth dimension, which created a time delay. Is it possible? Is one of the ways to reverse that is a highly spiritual being able to time travel back in time or back to the future, whatever you want to call it, and close that portal?
No, because when you time travel, you go back on a different timeline. You can't go back on the same timeline you on, or you will disintegrate.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as you get past your date of birth, if you're on the same timeline, you don't exist no more. Until you get to where you was here before, your consciousness can go to any prior incarnation you had.
Mm-hmm.
But to actually be able to interfere with historical events, you will end up creating another loop. You will basically be backflipping on your tail.
Right. Is that connected to the grandfather's paradox?
The dude go back in time to kill his grandfather before he was
right.
Because
that will kill you.
Right. But if you go back, you're gonna be on a different timeline, and you can kill him and still be there.
Mm.
You won't be on the same timeline. It will create a divergent.
Mm. So Rod, there's this program called Quantum Jumping, and
Quantum Leap.
Well, it's from what I understand, the name of it is called Quantum Jumping. It's
Okay.
a meditation. It's a meditation. It's a form of meditation where you meditate and you travel to meet the perfect version of yourself in an alternate reality. When you meet this version of yourself in alternate reality, like let's say the perfect version of Rod Hayes or the higher self version of Rod Hayes, you get information from this version of your higher self and you bring it back to this realm. So it's not like you're trying to create something. It's everything is already created. You're just going to meet what's already out there. So if I want to be a piano player, I meditate and I go to meet Brother Rich, who is a masterful piano player. And when I merge with the rhythm of that self, I automatically, the program gets downloaded into me, like Neo got the like how to fight in that scene in the Matrix, and he knew how to fight in that white room. So talk to me about, what do you think about that idea? About
that process is called the soul retrieval process. It's a book called Soul Retrieval, and there's another one called Moving Through Parallel Dimensions. All of these things are consistent with merging. Okay, so when you're doing that, all you're doing is bringing all of your alternate reality selves into a primary timeline.
Right.
So when you decided when you was 12 years old that you was going to take up baseball instead of football, in one timeline you a football player, but in the other timeline that you're living in, you the baseball player.
Mm-hmm.
But now the opportunity comes for you to play football.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Now, how you can only perform at a high level if you go and unite with the self that became the football player.
Mm.
Right? This is all done in the mind. The mind is a bad mofo. The mind can do stuff that you have no idea. And the way we are taught is so we never explore the mind. That's why they tell us an idle mind is the devil's workshop.
Right.
But it ain't the devil, it's your double. It's your doppelganger. Your higher conscious self can go to all of your other selves and recover you from wherever you at to tap your skill set and bring it into a single timeline. That's called moving to a singularity. And it's something that mystics been teaching for thousands of years. Like we think the Earth's 6,000 years old, and that's the most ridiculous thing I ever heard.
You said you don't like to put a time on Earth.
No,
right?
but even using the Gregorian calendar, if you use 6,000 Gregorian calendar years, you're gonna see that it was bustling civilizations jumping off already.
Yeah.
If you use 6,000 Julian calendar years, you're gonna run into bustling civilizations at the time that, because all these are Christian concepts, and these Christian concepts is crowd control, it's herding the sheep.
Right.
That's all it's for. It don't have no intrinsic value for the sheep, but the shepherd can read it differently from the sheep.
Mm-hmm. Man, so this doppelganger, that's your higher self then?
Yeah. That's your double.
Your double.
That's your true self.
That's your true self.
Right. Your ego self is your artificial constructed self. And you got that idea from all your teachers, your parents, your siblings, your cousins, your friends, all telling you how they feel about you or what they type of person they think you are. All of that you believe becomes the building blocks of the ego. Right. Mm-hmm. And this is why, like, a lot of people don't understand Dianetics. The whole program, you don't need that. All you need is the original Dianetics book to understand how the mind works. Once you understand how it works, then you understand how to interrupt the patterns that keep you following the oppressive narrative that they got us sinking into. Like reparations, a lot of us that look like me and you don't even know that reparations is a distractive tool to keep the ones who was organic to the land from ever discovering they organic to the land and then surrendering that status in order to be compensated from being brought from somewhere that you ain't from. Mm-hmm. Right. So that's why if you go back to my earlier Facebook lectures, you'll hear me saying it all the time. And the only way you can lose your soul is to lose your mind. And you lose your mind by people giving you misinformation that you take as the holy gospel.
Man, and those books you mentioned, a couple of books just now. I just want to you said you said Moving Through Parallel Dimensions.
Yeah.
And was Soul Retrieval, was that a book or was that
that's a book.
Okay. And Moving to Singularity, is that a book or is that a practice?
That's a concept.
Okay.
That's a concept of uniting your multi-dimensional self into one. A good book to get for that is called Inanna Hyperluminal, where she talks about bringing her multi-dimensional self into one dimension in order to be a higher evolved being in the dimension she's in.
Wait. What's the name of that? That was a hell of a name. What was the name of that one, Rod?
It's called Inanna Hyperluminal.
Inanna, I-N-A-N-A?
Yeah. It's two N's in the middle. I-A-N-N-A. Hyperluminal.
So that's hyper, H-Y-P-E-R, hyper?
Yeah. Yeah.
And Lumina?
Yeah. Luminal. That means accelerated light.
Oh, okay. Inanna Hyperluminal. That's a hell of a name. That's a book?
Yeah, that's a part 2. The first part of that book is called Inanna's Return, which was talking about the return of the Great Mother.
Oh. Damn, man, you got. I done heard about a lot of books, man. You naming shit I ain't never heard of, Rod.
Yeah. Do you see me checking notes?
Nah. Rod, you ever mess with the when we talk about the ancients and we talk about the Anunnaki, and we talked about cocaine a little bit earlier. How much did the Anunnaki and Lil, Tahuti, all these energies, how much did they engage in theogens to tap in to other realms to get information and to do certain things?
It's funny. Yeah. So all of those things come from different star systems. You ever heard of the Voynich manuscript?
Yeah, I did, but I don't know what that is. But I heard that name is familiar.
So the Voynich manuscript is an ancient manuscript that nobody can translate. But what it is, it's an order catalog for the flora and fauna of the earth.
Uh-huh.
And a lot of the stuff in there we didn't order. But like cannabis comes from the Canis star system. Mm-hmm. And is used to facilitate higher consciousness and to turn you into a human lie detector.
Mm-hmm.
Mushrooms, psilocybins, comes from a different star system with a group of beings that we call the Deros, which is prone to or obesity. Think farmers with overalls, the fat, pot belly, overweight. This is what they look like. The obesity gene. Remember when they discovered the obesity gene?
Mm-hmm.
The obesity gene is the Deros gene, right? Then you have the coneheads, the Teros, right? And all of these different beings, when they came, they brought with them the tools to teach higher consciousness that they use on their planet or in their star system.
Mm-hmm.
And they scattered them around the world. The coca plant is native to over here.
Okay.
The marijuana is native to over here, but the priests from Tibet end up taking it over there. When Tahuti sent the temple priests from the pyramids around the world to spread knowledge, they found that the THC builds up something called an endocannabinoid system.
Mm-hmm.
The endocannabinoid system is your spirit body connection to your physical body. So you have endocannabinoid receptors on every major organ.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That's because every organ is responsible for a different secretion. And by balancing out the secretions, it alters the perception of the mind by feeding the brain certain chemicals in order for you to perceive on higher levels of consciousness. It was the best teaching tool on the planet. As you became more advanced, then you had your sweat lodge, psilocybins, you had your toads, then you had your Ibogaine. Ibogaine ceremonies with a good Babalawo is probably the best hallucinogenic for higher perception of self than any other, but it's dangerous. But you won't be addicted to no drug once you go through the Ibogaine ceremony. You won't be psychologically or emotionally capable of being addicted to a drug once you've been exposed to the Ibogaine.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why they banned it in America. It's called African LSD too. But they banned it in America because there was no competent priest to administer the rights. Now you can get access to Ibogaine, but people using it for recreational purposes, not for that.
Mm-hmm.
One of the ironies about Ibogaine is a lot of people who went through the ceremony met the great mother who called herself Aiwass, the spirit of the great world tree. And it's made from the bark of a tree.
Wow. Aiwass. That goes back to that Crowley thing, huh?
Yep. Crowley was one of the pale faces that went into the Masonic lodges to put the secrets in the public. And that's why the Freemasons and all of the different secret societies hated him.
So you fuck with Crowley's info, or you think he was some weird ass satanic demonic cracker?
No, I know what Crowley was doing. I don't have to think about it. I know what he was doing. I fuck with Crowley heavy. But the people that's been indoctrinated with the church would think if anybody acknowledges Crowley and his work is some kind of nefarious worshiper of dark forces, which nothing can be further from the truth. Crowley became a 33rd degree Freemason at an early age when he was like 20 or something. And once he got his 33rd degree, he said, now I'm gonna go out here and tell everybody what y'all doing. It's all documented. On that's called the left-hand path. On the right-hand path, his counterpart was known as Franz Bardon. And Franz Bardon, or AKA Fabato the Magician, taught the principles of hermetics from the perspective of the righteous or the right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So when you study his work, when you get to evocational magic and you start comparing it to Crowley, you can't tell the difference. But in the early works, the initiation of Hermetics, you begin to see a difference in the work. But when you get to the higher levels of the study, you're like, it's the same thing.
Mm-hmm. And what about in terms of these individuals that were able to tap into certain realms? What about Paschal Beverly Randolph? Because we always hear about Crowley. A lot of people, except for a few brothers, Bobby Hemmett, Phil Valentine, a lot of people don't talk about Paschal Beverly Randolph.
I'm not real versed in him. I'm more versed in Rudolf Steiner and Madame Blavatsky. But I'm not real familiar with his works.
Well, now these Madame Blavatsky, all of these individuals, how can they tap into such science and they still, it seems from what I understand, they hate niggas. They got all this information. Yeah.
That can be further from the truth, because if you go back and read Crowley, Blavatsky's Isis Unveiled and Secret Doctrine, you're gonna see her talking about old man Africa. She's talking about Enki.
Mm-hmm. What she said?
Right. She's just giving you the rundown on who he was. And she talked about the 5 root races, which was part of the breeding program of the Anunnaki. It's all in her written works. And she's not on record of doing nothing racist.
Mm-hmm. Okay. That's what
Same with Crowley. Crowley was in Europe. You gotta remember that. And a lot of the European ways we would perceive as racist from over here, because the people that brought racism to us came from Europe. Mm-hmm. But what we don't know is the people that brought racism to us look like us. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right? The doctrine of white supremacy is what we call the Protocols of Zion. That's why they vehemently deny that it's a actual work. Mm-hmm. They believe that it's a disinformation to the Jewish community. Those pale-skinned Jews ain't even the problem. It's the ones that look like us that believe they have the inherent right to rule over us because they feel like we are their pets. Mm-hmm. Goyim is what they call us in Hebrew, and it's akin to calling us cattle. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Last question I want to ask you, my brother. I mean, wow, what a show. We're talking about just being highly evolved and tapping into these realms, and you talked about how powerful the mind is and how much it could do so much shit we can't even imagine. In terms of magic, I was talking to Brother Yosef, and I was talking to somebody else, and I was asking them, why, when we watch all these movies, Harry Potter, all this shit, we always see them, because you talk about the Hebrew, but we always see them use Latin. What the hell? I would love to hear your perspective on this. What the hell is it about Latin and us doing magic, right?
So that's part of the Conjure War. You gotta remember, Greek was written by Egyptian priests who settled on the island of Crete. Latin was written by Etruscans who settled in what we call modern day Spain, all the way into Italy. They wrote Latin as a conjure language from the beginning. Well, we call it a scholarly language.
Yes.
So there's only 2 scholarly languages out of Europe, and that's Greek and Latin. Mm-hmm. The Greek was under the matriarchal rulership of the goddess Helen. Mm-hmm. And she became a man in Rome. That's called the beheading of a god. In Rome is where Latin is the scholarly language. The Roman construct took several hundred years to bring into fruition after Alexander's conquest of the Indus Valley, where he captured the scrolls of government, what they call them the caste scrolls, which tells them how to keep people subjugated. And then through Plato's Republic, they was able to implement this republic, which is law, ruled by law, into the arena of the people in order to control them so that you can subjugate them. So Latin is considered a dead language. I mean that it's a fixed language. That's why they still use it and they can use it for ancient or modern spell work because it's a dead language. The same with Greek. But it's the authors of the language that makes the difference in the intentions of the people. Like when the Pharaoh sent his daughter to settle Greece, that he told the priest to write them a language in which they can harness their higher senses. Whereas when the Latins went in, when they wrote Latin, they was only seeking to have a rival language to Greek in the Conjure War. That was all that was. So most of us don't know a lot of our problems is from people in Conjure Wars doing nefarious things. Like modern Americas ran off three primary conjures. One is called Babylonian blood magic. One is called Babylonian money magic. The other one is Babylonian sex magic, where they can keep the frequency and the vibration so low that they can get away with any kind of dirt as long as they can keep the narrative under control. That's all sorcery.
Rod, I'm gonna have to do a show with you on YouTube. I think our next show, we're gonna have to do like a 3-hour show exclusively on the Conjure Wars. Because you're the only person that keep bringing this Conjure War up and you break it in. I need like a thorough, we need like a thorough conversation on the Conjure Wars. American, Greek, Latin, Egypt, whatever. We need a thorough. So yeah, I'm gonna holler at you probably next week. And we're gonna have to go in on that, Ron, because you're the perfect person to break that down.
Yeah, it might be a while though. Cause I'm right now I'm not really doing nothing. I already had told you I was gonna do this Patreon.
Yeah.
But right now I'm waiting on something to happen. Something big is incoming, and
okay.
I'm on the sidelines. But I had to make sure I meet my obligation because I told you I was gonna be here.
Okay. Well, whenever you're ready to do it, let me know, my brother.
I will.
Whenever you're ready, just text me, holler at me. Let me know, Rich. We gotta do this. It's time, because I know timing is everything. So I know you got some stuff going on behind the scenes, and more power to you, my brother. So all right, so just to end the conversation, so I asked you about the Latin and why they use it for magic. So in terms of us, we talk about this delayed manifestation, us speeding up the manifestation process. Is there any language, a preferred language we should use, Rod, in terms of those who want to bring forth things into this realm?
Well, the only language right now that I know that was created with the fifth dimensional matrix in mind is called Nuwapu.
Okay.
I don't. All of these other languages is based on third dimensional manifestations of the delay. Nuwapu was written by the Nuwabians, and it was written with fifth dimensional frequency in mind. Mm-hmm. That's the only language that I know of. Some of the indigenous languages of the Americas, there are certain words of power that you can use when you know these languages. If you develop to a pure heart, that they will manifest almost instantaneous. Mm-hmm. But a lot of this stuff is lost to warfare, killing off the record keepers, the griots, right. The ones who told the stories by the fire, the ones who told the story on the lakeside. Mm-hmm. Right. And normally the men would tell stories around the fire at night, and the women would tell the women's stories around the lake while they do laundry. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right. So those were the main ones they was trying to kill. They wanted to kill off the ones who could change the condition. Mm-hmm. And so when you look back at the American history, them the chiefs that they was murdering. Right. And that was part of the Conjure War too, because they wanted us in total darkness, and they said that they'll never come out of this darkness once we kill off all of their teachers. Mm-hmm. And then they infiltrated us in every organization, and they don't look like nobody with no stringy hair and pale skin from Europe. Yeah, because there was no pale faces infiltrating the Moorish Science Temple in 1928, 27, 26. Mm-hmm. It wasn't no pale faces infiltrating the UNIA. There was no pale faces infiltrating the Black Panther Party. There were no pale faces that, though they could have been, they didn't do it. The SCLC and Martin Luther King, the AME Church wasn't infiltrated by pale faces. So we so fixated because they told us, there go your enemy over there, but the one standing next to you is the one stabbing you in the back. They look like us, but they ain't us. That's a conjure war. That's the George Washington challenge.
People say that, Rob, because people feel as though the FBI, the CIA, the pale faces send people that look like us. So they're
okay. The FBI was ran by J. Edgar Hoover for almost 60 years, and guess what he was?
Yeah.
He was a mulatto, working for the same Negroes that killed Clarence 13X, Malcolm X, infiltrated the Nation of Islam. You know, can't no pale face get in there. Right? So that's all convenience, right? To be in denial of the ones that look like us doing the dirt, so we can blame it on people that don't look like us. The whole KKK was created by what we call Blackamoor Spaniards. The regalia comes from Spain.
Right.
Right. And they originally tried to tell us this story that the KKK originally wore pillowcases and burned holes out for their eyes. That's not true. When the Dutch, Portuguese, the French, and the English came over here, they wasn't pale faces. Right? They started using the pale faces to block institutions to keep us out of the institutions of learning, economics, education, entertainment, the workforce. They wanted us kept out of everything, but they can't stop us. Because we was supposed to be here the whole time and they wasn't. That's why you have your tokens that pop up out of nowhere. Right? They have us thinking that Albert Einstein created the atomic bomb. He didn't. If you look up Lloyd Quartermain, you will see that the Manhattan Project was at a standstill until they brought him and his team of Negro physicists in, right? NASA used to have something called the Black Room. The irony of the Black Room is everything in it is white except for the people. Right? And they would give them the problems that the regular pale faces can't solve.
Right.
And they always got the problem solved. That's what the whole movie about those sisters down there was.
Hidden Figures.
Yeah, that's all what it's about. They didn't tell you the whole story. They told you part of the story in Hidden Figures. They had a whole room full of so-called Negroes that solved the problems that the European scientists were stuck on because they didn't have what we call holographic matrix memory.
What's that, Rod? That's a hell of a name. Holographic matrix memory. What's that, Rod?
So if you go back and study Tesla, Tesla was able to see in his mind's eye the whole breakdown of a creation from the parts to the completed project. He was able to assemble it all. Right? That's holographic memory. You can see all sides of the object and you can disassemble it. It's just like taking the car apart in your mind without actually touching the car. Now you know all of the components of the car.
But you just said the Europeans didn't have it, but then you said Tesla had it. What's the difference between Tesla and Einstein?
Tesla wasn't no European.
What was Tesla? Come on, I want to hear this.
He was a Venusian. He was from Venus.
I heard this before, but you got to tell the people who may not know. What do you mean he's from Venus? He's not from this planet?
No, he was an extraterrestrial. But he came here to give aid and assistance to the Earthborn for a reason. Venus is the Earth's twin sister.
Venus.
Right? And Venus was a water world that was similar to Earth, but it was also annihilated in warfare. Now it's almost uninhabitable.
Was this that great war you be talking about?
Yeah.
So that Great War fucked up a lot of shit, huh?
Yeah, a lot. It fucked up Mars. Mars was inhabitable
Yeah.
too. That's what Total Recall is all about. When Mars was inhabitable.
Damn. That was a hell of a war, right? That might have been the greatest war in human history, huh?
For the most part, it was the most destructive war that this solar system has ever seen.
Yeah.
That's what killed the planet Earth. The planet Earth went through a death cycle. We're coming out of the death cycle now. That's why the frequency was dead frequency. Now she's waking up.
I gotta ask you this before you leave, Rob. What's your thoughts on dinosaurs? Because you said the Earth, and what's your thoughts on dinosaurs? Did they exist? What's up with them?
Dinosaurs was created by Enki for the Andromeda beings to hunt.
For the
in the peace treaty.
I ain't never heard that breakdown. Hold it. Dinosaurs were created by Enki for the Andromeda beings to hunt.
The Andromeda beings is the story of the Predator.
Yes.
And when they first came to Earth, they preceded the Anunnaki.
The Andromeda beings.
Yeah. And then they was hunting the women of the Earth until they found out they was matriarchal, and then they stopped. Now, while they in a ceasefire and they negotiating, the Anunnaki come.
Yeah.
And Enki offered them dinosaurs for a period of time so they could have large game to hunt other than humans. Humans was way bigger back then, though, by the way.
Oh, no, you mean they was hunting the... Okay. Like the white boys hunt elephants and shit like that. They was hunting dinosaurs.
Yeah.
And, okay.
Yeah.
Damn. So what after they hunt them, what they do with them?
They did different stuff with them. They kept them, some of them they kept them for trophies, some of them they ate. But they was, that's what they did for a pastime, is they were great hunters.
Right.
Yeah. So when the contract ended, they had to destroy the dinosaurs. It was part of a peace treaty. There's only one the oldest contract on Earth is the Earth Matriarchal Order contract. That's the oldest contract on Earth. Wasn't no men here when that contract was created between the Earth and the women. It was just women here.
Just women at this time.
And they was doing parthogenic births. It wasn't until Anunnaki came that they created a gender contract. The gender contract now is being tested at the close of the age, as they do every close of the age. Because the men have to prove themselves worthy to be here as guardians, protectors of the women. And if we fail, they can cancel the contract, and everything male on the planet is just going to drop dead.
Whew.
So the men had to do something miraculous on the behalf of the matriarchs of the planet in order for us to be able to stay. Mm-hmm. It's all in the ancient record, but we don't like to talk about the ancient record because many people believe it's fantasy.
And what ancient record is this? What you're saying, this contract is in? What ancient record is this?
Well, a lot of it is in the Vedic texts in India.
Mm-hmm.
And some of it, modern archaeologists has been discovering a lot. It's a book called Forbidden Archaeology by Michael Cremo, mm-hmm. who goes into a lot of the ancient things that was here. Mm-hmm. Ain't none of this stuff we think we came up with plastic. That ain't new. Like oil, they call it crude. That's a side effect of nefarious beings walking the planet. Gold is the side effect of those benevolent beings walking the planet. Right? It's a resonant frequency, and the earth responds to it, and it tells us what's on the planet by the minerals that it produces. So that's why they called certain people the golden race. Certain people was called like, you got your indigos, and then you have your onyx generation, which is the protectors and defenders who carry the totems of black animals like the Black Panther, the Black Wolf. That's all native to over here. That don't got nothing to do with the other places around the world. When they call us black, they not talking about us. They're talking about our totem. Right? And they said they would kill us. They would annihilate us. So black became synonymous with death.
But before that,
black was the great guardian, the onyx. And it was manifesting a black cougar, a black wolf, a black eagle, a black hawk. All of these are clan totems that told of the people who were different priesthoods, who were warrior priests set to defend our land. And then they came over here because their royal status in Europe was white. And for us over here, white just means karma cleared. But for them, it meant superiority. So the attackers took the color of white. Go pull your chessboard out and read the rules. White attack, black defend. The great defenders.
Shit. Yo, Rod, I seen a snake yesterday. A little black garden snake, a black one with like gray stripes on it. What you think that mean, man? Because I know your mind is completely somewhere else. What that mean? A black garden snake. It was just chilling there with like 2 gray stripes on it. What you think that mean, man?
It's always something different because it's what you call variables that go into the interpretation, like what you was thinking about, what you was doing, where you came from, where you going. But generally, snake is.
I'm sorry, I got to cut you off because when you said that, you just opened up something in my mind. The day before, I was thinking about Kobe Bryant, and they called Kobe Bryant the Black Mamba. I was thinking about him.
Black Mamba.
I was watching something on YouTube about the Stoics, and you talking about ancient Greek. I was watching something about the Stoics and Marcus Aurelius.
Aurelius.
Yeah, I was watching like 2 hours worth of his quotes, and I was like, damn, Kobe, that reminds me of Kobe Bryant, some of them things. And then I see the black snake the next day. That's some crazy shit, bro.
That's called a knockback. But the garter snake or a small snake is a master in training. Right? When he become a cobra, he becomes a master. When he becomes a dragon, he becomes a grandmaster. And that's why the leader of the KKK is called the Grand Dragon.
Grand Dragon.
You have to have a certain mastery of conjure in order to hold the position.
Right. With these figures, Marcus Aurelius, these were mulattoes, white boys. Who are these people?
Half of them was melanated. Half of them was. Look, there is no more what we would call pure white people on planet Earth.
Yeah, right. Bobby said that like 15 years ago. Yeah,
they don't exist no more. Right? Like all you got to do is look at the ass. Janelle Monáe said best: the booty don't lie. Right? Well, what happened to all of those mulattoes that were supposed to have been freed from the plantations, which was actually POW camps? Where'd they go? They didn't go marry among us. A small handful of them did. The rest of them moved into what we call white society proper. They passed the brown paper bag test. They can get in. So where their children go? Right. So we so adamant of being racist because that was a very important tool of our conquest. Before Spaniards, Dutch, Portuguese, or any Europeans came over here to conquer us, we had all skin complexions of people. We had been having Irish in the Appalachian Mountains for I don't know how long.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right. The original Irish and Scots that fled, children of Scotta and Scotia, the sisters, they came over here for refuge. This is what America used to be. It used to be the refuge because we didn't have war over here.
Mm-hmm.
They try to paint the picture now that we was eating people and human sacrifice. All that's made up.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right. And they wanted to make that narrative so they could say they was just as bad as us.
Right, right, right.
No, we don't eat babies.
Mm-hmm.
We don't hang babies upside down by the ankle and shock them with cattle prods until they can't cry no more, and then bleed them out so we can get the adrenalized blood from them. We don't do that.
Mm-hmm.
That's Babylonian blood magic that the dirty Moors brought from Europe over here.
Mm-hmm.
Then they brought something called dogma. That's why Albert Pike wrote Morals and Dogma, because the dogma is going to mislead everybody whose moral compass is confused.
Right.
Right. If your moral compass is confused, you'll get caught in the dogma and follow a false narrative to your destruction.
Mm-hmm.
You won't never see it. But if your moral compass is intact, it'll start with one simple question. Why would God let this happen? You're going to get an answer. You might not like it.
Mm-hmm.
But you're going to get an answer. Your higher self, everybody in the world, 8.3 billion people can lie to you. But it's one motherfucker that can't never lie to you. You can always know you lying. Mm-hmm. So you can be in denial of what your higher self told you to your own detriment, or you can start paying attention when you get a hunch and go verify what you're seeing until your higher self can communicate clearly to you what it's trying to tell you. Mm. You got an internal language that only you know.
Facts.
And if you don't understand how to develop your understanding of your internal language, then you're going to always be relying on external forces to educate you as to who you are. Your ego development becomes solidified. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And it turns off your higher consciousness because you don't want to hear that shit. You don't want to hear the self-accusing spirit say, if you shoot that nigga today, his brother going to kill you tomorrow. Mm. I don't want to hear that. I'm going to shoot this nigga. Mm-hmm. Right? And you shoot him, you just barely grazing, and then his brother come kill you tomorrow. You knew it was going to happen when you pulled the trigger because you told yourself. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. All you doing is reading out loud your book of life to yourself. You just ain't listening to it. Mm-hmm. Because we all got a book of life we came in with at birth. Right. We all need to be starting by asking our mama, when you was pregnant with me, did you pray for anything? Did you ask God for anything? Because this is the table of contents to your book of life.
What your mama was praying for?
What she was praying for.
What about the father? Does his sperm impact your book of life? Like,
if your father spiritually evolved, you better ask him what he was praying for while your mama was gestating.
Shit.
Because if they working together as a cohesive unit, both of them's input becomes necessary for the total development of a balanced child.
Yes.
So the father, if all he thinking about is chasing cock, I'm fucking that bitch tonight. Yeah. But your mama, all she thinking about is when the Lord gonna change this condition, right? Now you got a child that don't know which way to go. He confused at birth.
Right.
Because now he want to go chase some pussy, but at the same time, he want God to fix the problem. And God can't fix the problem if the vessel not ready. Right. So this is why they want to break up the family. Because if we all on the same page in the family unit, we indestructible. Mm-hmm. But if we all get in different books and different libraries around the world in one family, and we ain't communicating the information across the family line, we are going in different directions. That's called chaos. Right. You can use the chaos if you become aware of it, but as long as you're not aware of it, you can't use it.
Man.
Chaos magic say use whatever work. Right. So a lot of people get caught in the day-to-day humdrum of paying their bills. They so worried about paying bills that they can't kill this system.
Right. Yeah.
Never knowing that once they kill the system, they're not gonna have no bills.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And whatever we want to create and produce, we have the mental capability to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But we can't do it when all we want to do is cater to a slave owner called a president.
Mm-hmm.
Right? We don't look up the meaning of none of the words we be talking, so we have a whole conversation and don't know half of what the fuck we just said for real.
Mm-hmm.
Because half the words we use and we don't know the definition of them
Mm-hmm.
or the etymology.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So we using words we don't know the meaning of to try to express ourselves competently and coherently so everybody know what we're talking about. And then we get frustrated and angry when people tell us we don't sound, I don't know what you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But we got to realize it's different people at different levels. The right people gonna know what you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And all of that ties into self-awareness, self-development.
Indeed. Man, Rod, man, I want to thank you, man, coming on here. Powerful, powerful show. Want to thank everybody who signed up. I mean, I know y'all enjoyed this one. I hope y'all wrote down some of the books Rod referenced, and I hope y'all took notes. Man. There's some powerful shit here. Before we get out of here, Rod, anything else you want to leave the people with before we get out of here, my brother?
Oh no, I'm good. I don't got nothing to say.
Indeed, and like I said, Rod, whenever you ready, I know you got something going on big, but whenever you ready, let me this Conjure Wars show. War show, I would love to discuss all these conjure wars that took place in antiquity and really have a firm understanding of how all of this is impacting what's going on right now. You know,
I'm gonna give you a reference. You ever heard of a cartoon called Black Sands?
Yes. Yeah.
Go watch it again and listen for the study of conjure in the show.
My son, I got the book. I read it. I read some of it one time to my son, but I wasn't paying attention to it. Like now that you say that, I'm gonna really pay attention to it. They got a show. I know the book, but they got a show also. You said
it's on YouTube.
It's on YouTube. Okay.
Yeah, the Black Sands on YouTube. When you know what you're looking at. Once you watch that, go back and watch that movie about Egypt that they did a few years back. When I forgot what the name of the movie was, but it had Osiris being tricked into a coffin by Set. Right, and then Horus grew up to avenge him. But first, check out the Black Sands because that's a foundational document.
Right. One last thing I want to ask you, Rod. This the Great War, and you probably said it on a previous show that I did with you. What is there any book or document, anything I can look into to that talks more about this Great War that took place in the cosmos? Like you said,
the Vimana Sutras, the Bhagavad Gita.
Bhagavad Gita talks about that?
Yeah, that's what the whole story about is the two sides of the family that's in the war fighting each other.
Oh.
It's a story of Lord Krishna talking to a guy named Arjuna. Arjuna is asking questions about this war that he's watching take place. That's an excerpt from the Mahabharata, which is a much bigger text. They got more stuff in it. But the Vimana Sutras got a subtext called the Vimanas Wars. And that's talking about the cataclysm that took place in the Great War. Also, Malachi wrote about it in the Holy Tablets. He didn't go into detail with it, but he touched on it.
What he said?
Basically, pretty much what I said, but he didn't go into real depth and detail in there about the Vimanas Wars. But he tell you that these people that they call Hindus came from a planet called Nirvana, right? And to fight a war, and the war was being fought in the earth realm. You know, but he talked about it. It's in the story of the Holy Drama is part of the story. Because it's part of the destruction of reality after the fall of the Great Father. And now it's time for the son, Heru, Heru is a title meaning heir to the throne of Osiris. When Heru becomes a man and he was able to capture what's called the Ujet and the Uraeus, now he can see with clear vision. And he becomes a manifestation of Osir again. And then the story repeats. He got a brother who slayed him, knocked his eye out, cut him up into 13 pieces. Why did they say 13 pieces? When the grand man is the 12 signs of the zodiac, right? But 13 is Big Mama seat, dead center of the zodiac, right? And when there's an heir to the great mother seat, she carries the number 8. If she's balanced, because the 8 is a 6 laying on top of a 9 or a 9 laying on top of a 6. 6 and 9 mean balance above and below. It's a mirror reflection, right? So it's all high science, right? But it's broke down into fundamental concepts that you can grasp. And once you understand it, then it makes sense. Another place where they talk about the Great War, it's a remote viewing place called the Farsight Institute. And some of the women who was channeling or using remote viewing was able to remote view the war. And they got a YouTube channel too, Farsight Institute. Yeah, it's the Farsight Institute, like in being able to look far away, Farsight. And they got some stuff in there that a lot of people was like, it can't be verified, but it can be verified. You know, remote viewing is a good study in and of itself, because now you understanding the key principle of how the mind works beyond the physical body. And your presence can pop up anywhere using remote viewing. That's also part of soul retrieval, because remote viewing is the same thing you using when you reviewing yourself in another timeline with a different set of developed skills.
Billy Carson be talking about that a lot, the remote viewing. Talk about that shit a lot. I did a show with him a couple, like 3 years ago, Rod, on remote viewing. And the same night, after I did the show with him on remote viewing, I had a dream that I was on Andromeda. I was in some place and I'm looking up and I seen the people and I'm like, yo, where are we? They're like, oh, this is Andromeda. And I'm like, and the sky was like mad close to the land and shit. I'm like, man, I don't know if it really is. I don't know what the fuck this is, but it would bug me out that I never had a dream like that. But I had it the same night. Me and him was talking for 2 hours about remote viewing, man. Crazy shit.
So look, the Andromeda beings look like the wraith of deep space, but their story is told to us as the predator. When you see the predator versus alien, it's annihilate them, help the predator to defeat the alien. That was telling us the story of when the women of the earth, when the Andromeda beings discovered we was matriarchal and gave us our respect, gave the human women their respect. Right. And then because they was in communication with other species, they started inviting certain high-ranked women to go on space exploration trips to meet new people. And everywhere the Earth women went, they automatically became most loved and most respected in short order. And they became ambassadors. So a lot of what we know as the Galactic Council is women that used to live on Earth thousands of years ago.
Why the women on Earth became the most respected and most admired when they traveled?
Because they Oshun nature. They knew how to make some of the most hardened individuals experience the love energy with their presence. And when it comes in the room, it's like now, the right female walk into the room, I don't care if it's 5,000 people in there, all his turn. Right? That's that energy. And they stifling it by keeping the women and the men in conflict. And that's why I did the public service announcement for the Goddess Glow Up, because I already know the more women that the earth heals, the faster the earth heals. And the more we able to get from under the stupor that we in, and we can start thinking again. So a lot of people we think conscious. Some damn fools with education and a degree.
No, indeed.
You know,
man.
And specifically to poke the bear, I'm gonna point out an example of what I'm talking about. Dr. Umar. I love that dude to death, but he keep talking about we Africans. And then he said he had descendants of Frederick Douglass. He must don't know nothing about Frederick Douglass, because Frederick said he was native over here. He was what they call a Black Indian. So all of a sudden he gonna forego the ancestry claim in order to embrace his African self. Take his unapologetically African ass to Africa and watch how he get treated. The only place he's gonna be welcomed is Liberia, to that degree that he's talking. Africans don't call themselves African. Think about that for Africans don't refer to themselves as Africans. They either gonna give you their tribal name or the name of the country they come from. They not gonna say they African unless they was raised over here. Africans don't claim Africa. Africa was created under Berlin Conference. They divided it up. It comes from the Arabic word ifrak, which means to divide up.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what they did in the Berlin Conference. Divided up the motherland, which is actually the fatherland. And this is actually the land of the son Tahuti. And Eurasia is the motherland. That's the land of Inanna or Isis.
Mm-hmm.
But since they know everything, I ain't the one to talk, so you ain't heard it from me.
Damn, wow. Man. Hey, man, what a show. What a show, Rod. Like I said, brother, I appreciate it. And just holler at me whenever you're ready, my brother. Well,
I got you.
More power to everything you got going on, my brother.
For sure, for sure. You're going to see something soon. I don't know what it is, but it's about to pop off.
I'm waiting. I'm here, brother. You got my support.
You've seen all of the military all over the place, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They land in LA, Boston. They're all up in Canada. They just here.
I just seen a video of Putin and he looks shook up. I never seen Putin's one of the fiercest looking motherfuckers I ever seen. I seen a video and he looked shook up today. I don't even know what it was about. Somebody betrayed him. That nigga looks scared like a motherfucker. Like he just seen a ghost.
In-house coup.
Oh.
To try to take over, funded by, I guess, Ukraine.
Yeah.
Ukraine is this funny. This is how they work. Ukraine is a name that means the UK reign.
Yeah.
These the deep state around the world have private militaries.
Mm-hmm.
They already programmed to what to do. They just waiting on the event to activate. That's why they got them all over the land now. Because when they come out, when the deep state come out in their last chaotic effort to throw the people in disarray, they coming for the kids. They trying to catch kids out at night and snatch them off the street.
Mm.
So, like, people don't want to, they're like, man, I ain't following no military curfew. Well, let your kids go out there. They're going to come up MIA.
Mm.
Right? They're not paying attention to none of this stuff. Mm. They did a pilot program in Ohio where they snatched up like 30 kids in 1 week.
Damn.
And then we ain't paying no attention. We don't give a fuck. As long as I can pay my bills, fuck them kids. Mm-hmm. We ain't saying that. We doing that. It's a difference. Right? Because just because we not saying it, doing it is worse.
Right.
It's like somebody tell you they love you all the time, but they always lumping your face up, got you looking disfigured. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. They saying one thing, but they showing you something else.
Right.
Or it's like the person that don't never tell you they love you, but they always there when you need them. They always there for you. They always got your back no matter what. Mm. Which one do you want on your team?
Exactly.
You know, so we watching all this stuff go on. They 1,800 or so kids came up missing from crossing the border as if they don't know where they went. They all got GPS trackers on them. Mm-hmm. People that took them didn't know that. Mm-hmm. Every time they get to the point where they think they got all of the traffickers and they bring on a rush of children across the border, some more come up missing. Mm-hmm. But the military got trackers on the ones coming up missing so they can find where the rest of them at. Mm-hmm. Now they at the part where they boots on the ground. They boots on the ground because these people is trying to get a reserve surplus of adrenochrome so they can continue to fight. By cutting off the children, you're cutting off their drugs.
Mm. Mm. Some crazy shit, right?
Mm. Yeah, there's a whole lot of stuff going on that we ain't looking at. And I'm at the point now because people starting to believe I'm an entertainer. I'm not here to entertain nobody.
Mm.
I'm not a celebrity. I'm not part of the conscious community. Them niggas is the most in the way ass niggas we got right now, the so-called conscious community. These diet woke ass niggas. Right? They see everything but what they need to see. And because they taking me for an entertainer, I can't do this. I can't be no entertainer. That's not what I'm here for. I'm not here to entertain nobody. I'm here to educate and to get information that you can use to get you to the next level. But now we didn't reach the point where they ain't taking me serious no more. Right? They starting to think I'm here for the hee hee ha ha. Right? And then they keep forgetting that I was told we not gang banging. I'm with fucking motherfuckers up. But my OG told me, no, we brain banging. So I come out and I teach and I try to ignore the riffraff, but nigga, I want to smoke. I want to go out there in the street and that nigga that be barking that shit, punch that nigga in his mouth. That's my blood. That's how I roll. But I'm under instructions that Farrakhan said, make it plain enough for a baby to understand. Okay, I'm doing that. If a baby can't understand this shit, he retarded. Then Larry said, don't go out there with that gang banging, brain banging. Bring the books, bring the receipts. Angel Bay said, tell them the truth about this nationality shit. They got this shit all fucked up. Nationality is the order of the day. You don't understand that to be a national, you first got to be a citizen of a nation. And soon as you become a citizen, you have to assume the position of a straw man. And as soon as you assume the position of a straw man, you are a legal fiction. You don't got no more rights. So they can shoot your ass down in the street and don't have no consequences. Because you already dead with your black ass. Right? But they want to push the agenda because they didn't even pay attention to Noble Drew Ali when he said, I can count the number of Moors going to make it on one hand and have fingers left over. So it's going to be way less than 5.
God damn.
Right? It's going to be less than 5 Moors left. Why would he say that? He started a civics organization. Who turned it into a religious organization? Somebody got to answer them questions. Why did they disregard what he was doing, teaching civics, to start teaching some religious dogma? Noble Drew Ali did what he did. He laid his hand down. Don't nobody know what he did but a few. Marcus Garvey laid his hand down. Everybody think Marcus Garvey was, everybody go back to Africa. Nigga, you got to be stupid. That's not what he taught. Right? Because if you study Pan-Africanism, and then you go talk to African scholars, they're going to tell you the same thing they told me. Y'all not Africans. Y'all was already over there before Columbus ever sailed, before he was even born. Y'all was over there in bustling civilizations. Right? So Lewis and Clark declared that we didn't have any royalty on the land because we left our castles to fight the Gullah Wars. And then they backdoored us. But we got castles all over this motherfucker. They turned them into prisons, state buildings, and mental institutions. Right? So as long as they in that mindset, hey, I can't help them no more. I did my due diligence. I got hundreds of hours of information that they need to be reviewing now. That's why I'm done talking. You know, but I had to make sure I come get this Patreon in with you because I had already told you I was going to do it.
Hey, yeah, I like I said, I definitely appreciate it, brother. And what a way to give your last talking before you take this break, before you fall back, man. This was a hell of a show, man. So I definitely appreciate it. You know what's funny? Now I'm intuitive, dude. When you know what I said in my mind, Rod? Every time I'm about to end the show, other shit come in my mind. The last video we did on YouTube, what was it about? I forgot what it was about, but you was talking, and I'm sitting here and I'm looking at you and your energy, And I'm saying, this shit sound like Rod. It feel like Rod Hayes' farewell speech. You ain't saying nothing about leaving or nothing like that. But I'm an empath. The energy you was giving off to me, I said, damn, why? I said, I hope the brother ain't going to die, no shit like that. I said, no, I don't. I said, I said, nah, that ain't it. But I said, why does shit feel like Rod Hayes? And I didn't say it to nobody, but in my mind, I said that shit like 10 times. It felt like a farewell speech, brother. So I'm glad I had the opportunity to tell you that that's the vibe I got from you the last YouTube interview that we did, man.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah. So you saying what you say now, you got to fall back. I can see why I got that vibe, and it was a strong vibe. You were setting a strong signal out there. And for those who are empath, they could pick up on it. And I picked up on it. I was like, damn, why does shit feel like his empath, his farewell speech? So yeah, man, I feel you when you say that, and I got that sense before you even said it, my brother. So you do what you got to do. We all got our soul contracts, we all got our life paths and what we got to do. And I got the utmost respect for you, brother. I love how you move, brother.
Yeah.
You're very rare. It's rare an individual move like how you move, my brother.
For sure. Look, we gonna bump into each other in person sooner than you think.
Man, I can't wait, man. I can't wait, brother.
Look, when the shit finally break, we're gonna have Mardi Gras from Maine to Arizona, from Alaska to Florida. Woo! X marks the spot.
Shit. Nigga said Mardi Gras from Maine to Arizona. God damn, man. That's a hell of a statement, right? Shit, man.
That's how it's gonna be. We're gonna be celebrating, because to break the stronghold of this demonic force, I don't even like to use these terms, but that's what the people understand. But these forces that have been keeping us under their thumb, it's a done deal. It's a wrap. So it'd be worth celebrating.
Indeed. No, facts. I might have to have me a little alcohol for the celebration.
We do all that. We do all that. Look. Some of us Indians don't do well on alcohol, but some of us can handle our liquor. That's what the whole drinks champ is about.
Hey, yeah.
Yeah, they used to take you into the teepee in a smoke lodge, sit there and just basic conversation and feed alcohol until you spill your guts. That's when they came up with the term pale face speak with forked tongue. Most of us don't know what it means, but we think we do.
That come from the alcohol?
From the alcohol exposing the intentions of the people that sent them.
Right.
Right. And when they sober, they know to not tell them that somebody that looked like you sent me over here to talk to you.
Yeah.
But once they full of that alcohol, they be told the whole story. Yeah, man, they had me in the Masonic Lodge, and they told me because of my blonde hair and blue eyes that you would trust me.
Damn.
So I came over here. Now they sloppy drunk while they telling it.
Yeah.
When they sober up, they don't even remember telling it, and we ain't gonna tell them they told us.
Right. Damn.
Oh, that's just in the culture. That's why Drink Champs is as big as it is. That's why it's so popular.
So successful.
It's part of our culture, right? And Nori is native to the land. He is an Indian.
You can see him. You can look at him, and
yeah. I mean, I know from the culture. I read the culture. The culture tell me who belong here and who don't. You know, so I done been all over the land talking to people from different tribes, and they all understand what's going on to a different level than the average Joe. The average Joe is retarded, but it was intentionally done like that. Right? So that's what the whole blackface was. We thought it was some racist. No. The minstrel shows was to tell you who was behind the dirt when they dressed up, when they were started by some melanated people. Then it was hijacked by the pale people that painted their face black. Why they do that? Thick face, what's called white skin, black face, or black skin, white face by Fanon, Frantz Fanon.
Frantz Fanon, yeah.
Yeah, he telling you in there. Up and happy to read what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
Right? We don't pay attention. Even them apologetically Africans don't even pay attention to what the Africans is telling us because they want to follow the dogmatic narrative of a slave ship that never existed.
Mm-hmm.
Right? They found 5,000-year-old Egyptian ships. They found 2,500-year-old Asian ships, but they found the 200-year-old slave ship.
Mm.
Then none of them is never going to think to do an overlay with Notre Dame University where the plot was hatched.
Mm-hmm.
The cathedral is the slave ship. That slave ship they keep giving us where everybody packed like sardines.
Mm-hmm.
Go do a layover with Notre Dame University. I did it on my first Instagram page, but they took the page down.
Mm-hmm.
But they don't have to give me my receipts anyway. I'm going to have to put them in book form.
Mm-hmm.
But
indeed.
It is what it is.
Indeed. Hey, Rod, once again, man, thanks for coming on, brother. I truly appreciate you, and I'm going to talk to you real soon, my brother.
All right, Brother Rich. Appreciate it. Appreciate you having me.
No doubt. Peace.
Yeah.